Hi there, my name is Suze and I work with women to help them find balance between their internal masculine and feminine energies so that they can have lives that feel really emotionally fulfilling, full of love and connection. So I am still seated on my floor here for some grounding going on. I am feeling more powerful, though I will say. I recorded a few videos this week with myself seated on this floor with a sweatshirt on, super cozy and comfortable, just to really anchor myself in and reground back to a calm place. That full moon that we had in Capricorn at the beginning of this week really stirred up a lot of stuff for me, a lot of excitement and a lot of really great positive energy and positive emotion to move myself forward. But even with that, and I've done videos about this before, about how those higher, more positive, excitement, momentum producing urges and flows of energy can sometimes be overwhelming and can sometimes really, really tire us out, honestly. And I've called this before. I don't think I've said this on the YouTube channel, but in working with clients and whatnot, I call it the emotional hangover. It's like you get this emotional hangover sometimes where you have such a high day, or you have so many epiphanies, or so many messages that come through, or clarity, or excitement, or inspiration, or motivation, and you're so ready to go forward. But after that, everything is ebbs and flow, everything is an energetic wave, and sometimes the aftermath is like almost like this emotional hangover where you're like exhausted, right? And that's really what happened with me with this the full moon in Capricorn. It really released me from so much stuff, and in the release of so much stuff, there's such a lightness, right? And it does feel like this freedom when you really have this thing that you felt like it's been on your shoulders and burdening you for so long, and then you finally release it. It's very freeing and liberating, which can make your spirit and your soul rise. But it can be also like, whoa, afterwards, right? Like, whoa. And I really learned that for myself and for a lot of us on this journey. It's like that's kind of part two of these emotional waves is sometimes for some of us, depending on your life story and your struggles and your past experiences, but sometimes it's almost easier for us to hold space in the lows of life, in the more negative emotions, in the struggles and the hard stuff. And it's actually sometimes easier to kind of start there and learn to hold space in the negative junk. And then when you start to experience more highs and more bliss and more happiness, you notice how it's like having those higher realms energetically, having access, I should say, having access to those higher energetic realms can actually be kind of triggering, right? And that's where sabotage often comes in too. It's like, it's not just in the lows that we struggle. It's like getting into the higher states too, where we have to learn to stretch and expand ourselves to be able to hold the higher places. But I don't want to get into that a whole lot today. That will be stuff I will go into more deeply later. For today's conversation, I really want to get into something that's been tugging on my heart, and I've been kind of leading this channel in a direction of healing emotional sabotage, healing karmic loops, some people might call it, like karmic loops that you get stuck in, healing and closing out emotional patterns that you recognize are not creating emotional stability, they're not creating emotional fulfillment, and really this draw collectively to emotional healing and reworking our identity around emotions and holding emotions in the body and learning to really prioritize and be unapologetic for our own emotional needs for whatever stage of the journey that we're at. And I've really been working with a lot of this. And so in compiling some notes, it's come to my attention. I'm like, well, all of this is great, but I think we need to go back and really touch on a foundational piece in my journey that really was the tower moment that kind of triggered this domino effect in my life that brought me to this place that I'm now really loving, of feeling really in control of my emotions, in control of my emotional responses, stepping out of emotional reactivity, really consciously investing my emotional energy in spaces that will really only create more of what I do want, as opposed to continually generating more of what I don't want, right? Again, cutting those karmic loops, interrupting those karmic emotional thought patterns, like emotional patterns, thought patterns, belief patterns, identities, old identities, all of that I recognized started with a seed moment. I've been doing a lot of garden references with you guys because that's really what it is. And I just saw 555 on the timer, so I love this. The seed, the garden, it's like the garden of your heart. That is your inner garden, is the garden of your heart, and any weeds or flowers that you are cultivating there. So the seed for me that started this whole garden in my heart and reworking energy in the heart space and closing out holes in my heart, the voids in my heart, filling those spaces in. It all started with the seed of responsibility. And this seed I notice elsewhere, in working with people or just observing people in the public space, online, or even in my personal contact with people, personal connections, or meeting people or whatever. There's a common theme that I see where there's a lack of awareness around the concept of responsibility. And I want to be very clear, because as with anything, too much of a good thing then turns into a not good thing. So there has to be some balance in this conversation. So let me just preface this entire conversation with that, of the element of responsibility is the seed that can generate huge transformation in your emotional body and in your emotional responses and your sense of self-control and empowerment around your emotions, and learning to use your emotions for your absolute total empowerment instead of disempowerment, right? So the seed is the responsibility. And I've talked about this before on, oh, there's my kitty, Willow's here. Hello, little girl. I've talked about this on social media more. I've done posts about this, about my love-hate relationship with Saturn. And if you've been here with me any length of time, you know that I've been really getting to astrology. I'm really going deeper into it. I feel like this is the next frontier that I'm going into to really dive into, because I cannot deny the connection of my life in astrology. I just really can't. It's mind-blowing to me. And it really all started with Saturn. I am an Aquarius. I said this in other videos before. Let me know in the link in the comments below. Let me know what your astrological sign is. I am curious to see who is here. I am curious. I'm an Aquarius. And so if you know anything about astrology, you may have heard somewhere around the lines that Saturn moved into Pisces. Saturn moved into Pisces back in March of this year. And so if you know astrology, the sign before that would be Aquarius. So Saturn was sitting in my sign of Aquarius for the past 2.5 years until March of this year. And I did not know this fact until I think it was literally February of this year. So I literally only had 1 more month left of Saturn sitting in my sign before it transitioned into Pisces. And I found out this information about astrology. And this was the defining moment for me that made me believe in astrology like I had never really taken it seriously until this moment. Because when I found out what Saturn represents and what kind of crazy chaos that it produces in the sign that it is in. And then I looked back at my life of the past 2.5 years of when Saturn was in my sign, and I kid you not, my life at that time was a series of events that was literally beyond comprehension of how absurdly awful. It literally felt like everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. And no matter what I tried to do to get myself out of these situations and these spaces that were so painful and so awful, I couldn't. And no matter how many options and avenues I tried to get myself out of the mess that was just like pouring down on my head in my life, I could not escape or find a way out of anything. And that is Saturn. In a nutshell, Saturn is the planet that represents karma. And it's for me, I like to think of it as the planet of tough love. It is the absolute, I hope you guys like my smiley shirt today, by the way. I love this shirt. I got this at yoga. It is the planet of tough love, in my opinion. That's how I'm kind of vocalizing my experience with Saturn being in my sign. It is the planet of absolute, the toughest love possible. And it will completely take you down and humiliate you and bring you to a level of humility and like white flag surrender of like, fine, I give up. Like, what the hell? It will bring you to that place. It will. And the flip side, the positive side of that is that it will teach you radical self-responsibility in every nook and cranny of your life, and any aspect of your life that you may have even unknowingly been in a victim mindset or an entitled mindset or a self-deserving but in an arrogant, egotistical way. It will completely strip this away from you, and it will make you so aware of how you are sabotaging yourself, or how you are playing a part in all of whatever the negative things are in your life, or make you kind of pay for your past sins, so to speak. Again, that karma, right? Any karma in your past that you may have participated in that really wasn't the higher you speaking, oh, you will pay. You will pay up when Saturn comes around. So all of that to say, I learned radical responsibility. So back to the conversation I started a few moments ago. In the public space, on social media, on the internet, in talking with people or listening to people talk about their lives or their situations and whatnot, it's really interesting to me how people give their power away and they don't even know they're giving their power away, and how much more power and influence and impact people actually do have in all of the negative things in their life that they don't even realize. And they think that someone else holds the power over them, or some situation or something outside of them holds a power, and unless something somehow changes, or unless I figure out a way to make this thing change or move or shift, I'm just going to be stuck over here. And Saturn will really make you wake up to how, like for me, in my experience, in the past, I'm the kind of person who, and this is again part of an Aquarius type trait, but it's also some trauma responses that I have been working through. But in the past, I'm the person in relationships who can detach and walk away and not bat an eyelash. Something's not working for me in this relationship, and I'm just not going to deal with it, and I'm going to done with it. So out the door I go. And that's been really my big pattern for a lot of time here. And again, that is a very strong Aquarius trait. And it also is some trauma stuff from my earlier part of my life. And so with Saturn, it really woke me up to how much influence and change I can actually generate in relationships just by simply taking a hot minute to put myself in the hot seat and see how I am contributing to whatever thing is going on that I don't like. And now, again, I don't want to go too far into this and say that all the responsibility is mine. If something goes bad in a relationship, you're to blame and you got to take all the responsibility. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you can learn a lot about yourself if you start looking to see what you're doing that's contributing to this overall problem that you're having in relationships, or maybe this overall cycle that you're seeing, or this overall personality or type of man or woman that you tend to seem to attract into your life all the time. If you're seeing how you're contributing, then we have a chance at changing everything, rewriting your karma, rewriting your identity, getting deeper into these sabotaging things that are going on, noticing your own emotional cycles that are contributing to this whole mess. And you can really rewrite, so to speak, rewrite history, so to speak, moving forward. So I really want to bring this point home before I go any further into this conversation around healing emotional wounds and all this mother wound and emotional neglect and changing your emotional cycles, because until you're willing to do that, you're not going to get anywhere. And I still see a lot of information out there that tilts in the direction of what I was talking about, of where I was previously, of just like, oh, well, this isn't working for me anymore. This is toxic, so I'm just going to go. What if there's still more something you could learn before you go? Maybe you will ultimately leave. Maybe you will. Or maybe you could have a breakthrough and create healing in the dynamic and create, again, a whole new identity in relationship with someone else. Create a whole new dynamic, a whole new identity jointly together, and move into a healed space together. Because in my opinion, that is what relationships are really here for. Relationships are here for two people to come together, help and support and heal each other, learn to be honest and humble, and bring your own junk to the table, admit your own junk, take responsibility for your own junk, and learn how to work together, collaborate together, integrate together to create a stronger unit moving forward. And that is what we call emotional connection and intimacy. That is bonding at a very emotional, healthy place. And these types of dynamics are unshakable. These types of relationships are impenetrable. This is what our hearts and our souls are calling us towards, but it starts here. You release the other person for a moment from whatever they're doing that you don't like, and you put yourself in the hot seat and say, okay, well, what's the toxic trait in me? What's happening in me? How am I investing energy into something that I say I don't want, but I'm still participating in it by speaking into it, or thinking into the negative thing, or reacting into the negative thing? Or what are the things I'm telling myself around self-worth? When something bad happens, what do I collapse into? What negative train of thought do I collapse into of, oh, this always happens to me, or oh, this is just how it is, or why am I being punished, or whatever the wounded, collapsing, negative self-speak is, indicating some wounding and some work around the self-worth that needs to happen. It starts with you. And when you start taking this responsibility on, and you start unraveling the mess that you're in and seeing how you're contributing to the mess, then you're able to sit down at the table with the other person and have a conversation in a whole different level. Really big vulnerability. So then it's up to the other person if they're going to join you at that table, if they're going to collaborate with you and move the relationship forward. And that's where the defining moment is of, do I stay or do I go? Is this person willing to get humble, accept responsibility for their end of it? Are we willing to see each other and work together? It's not about being, I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm whatever, however that says, I can't think of it. It's not about being right or wrong. It's simply acknowledging, I'm messed up, you're messed up. Let's own our messed up together. Let's learn what we need, each person needs, to work through this to become a bigger, better person together, jointly, all of that. And that is where radical self-change will start happening. But it starts with you recognizing your own stuff first. I've done posts about that, about narcissistic, and oh, that person's a narcissist, or that person's toxic. Yes, so am I. I have my own toxicity in me. So why don't I start working on that first before I start looking at what everybody else is doing wrong? Because that's their business. And that's their journey. And I don't know what's happening for them internally. I don't know what they're struggling with. I don't know what they've experienced. And it doesn't matter. That is not my responsibility. My responsibility is the fact that I'm feeling not good about something. So I need to take my power back and figure out why I'm not feeling good about this thing. How am I contributing? Why am I putting energy into something that I say I don't want, but yet I keep generating it in my life? There's so much to be juiced out here. I've already gone a little bit longer than I wanted to go, so I will close the video here, but I hope this sparked some thoughts around responsibility, and instead of just blaming the other person or instantly labeling everyone else around us as narcissist or toxic, yes, clearly those things do exist, but can we hold up for a second, and instead of just escaping responsibility and moving on to the next person and then just generating more of the same crap with that next person, why don't we hold on for a second and see how we're playing a part in all of this? Because it's always two people that are causing something that's not working in some way, shape, or form. If you found value in this video and you really appreciate it, I would love it if you would subscribe to show your support for my message and my channel, help boost my message and get it out to other people for deep emotional and relational healing. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sending so much love and healing to you all. I'll see you on the next one.